My ex is joining us for Christmas dinner, he said casually, as if announcing the weather. Be mature about it. I froze mid-stir, the wooden spoon hovering above the bubbling sauce on the stove. The words echoed louder than the holiday music playing softly in the background. My name is Claire Bennett, and the man speaking, my husband, Derek Lawson, was the person I had trusted with my heart, my home, and my life. For 6 years, we had been inseparable, the kind of couple everyone admired, loyal, supportive, affectionate. Or at least, that's what I thought. Derek leaned against the kitchen counter, sipping his wine with that infuriatingly calm smirk. Don't make it weird, he added, waving a hand. It's just Christmas. Just Christmas. The problem wasn't the ex. It wasn't even the awkward small talk I anticipated. It was the tone, the casual, almost gleeful way he dropped the bomb, like testing my reaction was part of his entertainment. I forced a polite smile, trying not to let my panic show. Of course, I said, my voice a little tighter than I intended. Mature, right? No problem. But inside, my heart was racing. My mind replayed every detail of our past, the way Derek sometimes glanced at women the way other men might glance at a new car, the little jokes about my insecurities, the subtle comments about what I wore, how I cooked, even how I smiled. Was this just another one of those harmless tests? Or was there something more sinister beneath his charming exterior? I couldn't ignore the unease settling in my chest. Christmas was supposed to be warm and joyful. I had planned the dinner meticulously, the turkey perfectly roasted, the table adorned with family heirlooms, lights twinkling against the windows. And now, Derek's ex would be there, sitting at my carefully curated table, watching me, judging me, perhaps even flirting. I tried to push the thoughts away. He wouldn't do anything, right? He loved me. He had promised. But a flicker of doubt burned inside me. I remembered the subtle favors he gave his ex over time, the way he once mentioned meeting her for coffee, how he always seemed to laugh a little too easily at her texts, the way he hadn't deleted old messages despite my quiet hints. I stirred the sauce again, more aggressively this time, pretending I wasn't listening as Derek hummed to the music and casually added, just be calm, Claire. I want it to go smoothly. The warning in his tone was subtle, almost imperceptible. But I felt it in my bones. Something about this Christmas felt different. Dangerous. And in that quiet, festive kitchen, with the scent of pine and roasted turkey filling the air, I realized, this dinner wouldn't just be about family. It would be about truth. And I wasn't yet sure whose side it would reveal. The days leading up to Christmas felt heavier than usual. Derek was charming, helpful, and even attentive, but the ease of his behavior felt calculated, almost rehearsed. Every word, every glance, seemed designed to appear normal while something beneath the surface whispered that it wasn't. The first red flag appeared during our grocery shopping. I'll handle the wine, he said, sliding the bottles into the cart with an ease that made me hesitate. Get something light, Claire. She likes sweet reds. My heart stumbled. She? Wait, who exactly are you talking about? I asked, keeping my voice calm. Just for Christmas. Relax. I know how to make things comfortable, he said with that smile that had once made me melt. Comfortable? Or manipulative? I couldn't tell. Then there were the phone calls. Derek would step into another room, speaking softly, his voice low and urgent. Sometimes he laughed in a way that didn't reach his eyes, and I noticed him quickly closing his laptop or sliding his phone into his pocket whenever I passed by. Money started to feel like another battlefield. Derek insisted on splitting expenses for the dinner in a way that seemed fair, but subtle discrepancies worried me. He insisted on paying for certain things, yet claimed my contributions were excessive, always with that tone that suggested I was overreacting. Even at home, I noticed favoritism. His ex, apparently, was already influencing decisions. He mentioned her preferences for seating, for dishes, for drinks, as if her opinion mattered more than mine. One evening, he casually remarked, "I already asked her opinion on the dessert menu, she's great with choices like that." I forced a smile. That's nice. Inside, a knot twisted in my stomach. I tried to brush it off, remind myself it was just the holidays, that he was just trying to make things smooth. But every subtle action, the secretive glances, the small prioritizations, the helpful instructions, built a wall of doubt around me. I stayed up late, tracing my thoughts, revisiting memories. Had I missed something all along? The quiet whispers in his laughter, the little lies he told for convenience, the way he subtly minimized my opinions, it all began to feel like a pattern. I loved him, but trust had begun to erode under the weight of suspicion. My excitement for the holidays, once warm and bright, was now laced with anxiety. And the thought that haunted me most? If he could subtly favor someone else, manipulate small situations, and make me feel like I was overreacting, what else might he be hiding? Something told me that Christmas dinner wouldn't just be awkward. It might be the moment everything came to light. And I wasn't sure I was ready for the truth. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the chest I never saw coming. I had trusted Derek with everything, my love, my home, my future. And yet, in the quiet of our living room that night, the truth revealed itself in the form of messages, receipts, and carefully hidden plans. I had been organizing the Christmas table when my phone buzzed, a group chat notification from one of Derek's work colleagues. Curious, I opened it. What I found made my stomach drop. There were screenshots, forwarded messages, even a copy of an email chain detailing Derek's plans with his ex, Samantha. She wasn't just joining us for Christmas dinner. She had been coordinating the holiday celebration with him in secret for weeks, picking the menu, suggesting decor, even sending gifts for my family members in my name. Every detail Derek had claimed to handle for us had been influenced or dictated by her. And then I saw it, a text from Derek to Samantha, time-stamped just days ago, everything's set. Claire thinks it's her planning, but she has no idea. By the end, it'll be perfect for us. She won't suspect a thing. Perfect for us. Not me. Not our family. Not our life. Us. My hands shook. I dropped the glass I had been holding, and it shattered across the hardwood floor. The disbelief was immediate. How could he do this? How could the man I trusted, the man I married, plan my humiliation in the guise of holiday cheer? Anger followed, hot and blinding. My vision tunneled on the betrayal, on the way he had subtly erased my role, making me feel small, invisible, and replaceable. Every comment he had made about me being too dramatic or overthinking suddenly had a sinister edge. I wanted to scream, to confront him, to throw the gifts back in his face, but a deeper part of me stayed quiet. Pain had sharpened into focus. Rage became strategy. I realized that his arrogance, his belief that he could manipulate the evening, manipulate me, manipulate perception, was his greatest mistake. He assumed I would be passive. That I would smile, nod, and quietly play the part of the unsuspecting wife while he orchestrated a private reunion with Samantha. But he underestimated me. I took a deep breath, letting the fury settle into something colder, sharper. I didn't just want to expose him. I wanted him to feel the weight of every lie, every betrayal, every moment he thought he could erase my presence. And in that moment, I made a promise to myself, this Christmas, I wouldn't just survive the betrayal. I would turn it into a reckoning. Ethan had thought he was in control. He had no idea that the storm he had invited into our home had a name. And it was me. That night, I sat alone in the living room, the shattered glass still glinting under the dim light. Derek had gone to his study, probably to check messages from Samantha or finalize plans for Christmas. I felt hollow, aching, and furious all at once. I replayed the messages over and over in my mind. every detail of his betrayal burned with clarity. He hadn't just invited his ex, he had orchestrated the entire evening around her, undermining me at every turn, treating me like a character in a story that wasn't mine. For a long time, I had allowed his subtle manipulations to pass, brushed off the little lies, the dismissive comments, the small ways he prioritized her over me. I had loved him too much, or maybe too blindly, to see the pattern. But tonight, the truth hit me like ice. I had been invisible in my own life, and I had allowed it. And that realization sparked something powerful. I wasn't going to be invisible anymore. I stood and took a deep breath, letting the anger settle into focus. Hurt could make me collapse, but determination could make me rise. I thought about the control he assumed he had, how confident he was that I would smile politely at Samantha, keep my feelings hidden, and play the part of the mature wife. He had underestimated me. The trigger moment came when I walked to the kitchen, noticing the beautifully wrapped gift he had put in front of Samantha's name on the table. My fingers traced the paper. It wasn't just a gift, it was a symbol of everything he had tried to erase, my voice, my role, my presence. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I had to do. I wouldn't confront him in anger. I wouldn't beg for recognition. I would act with precision. I would reclaim my story, my dignity, and make sure everyone, especially him, saw the truth. I spent the next hour quietly organizing, mentally mapping out my plan. Evidence had to be collected, messages preserved, subtle traps set. Every coincidental mistake he had made in hiding his betrayal became a tool I could use. Every lie, every misstep, every hint of arrogance would work in my favor. The hurt had transformed into resolve. The disbelief had turned into strategy. Derek had thought he could manipulate the night, manipulate me, manipulate perception itself. But I would turn his arrogance into his downfall. Tonight, I wouldn't just survive his betrayal. I would rise above it. And for the first time in months, I felt calm, focused, and unstoppable. The woman he thought would quietly endure had awakened. And he would soon realize exactly how dangerous that could be. I didn't sleep much that night. While Derek snored peacefully beside me, completely unaware that his secret was no longer safe, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, turning pain into precision. Crying wouldn't save me. Confrontation would only give him time to rewrite the narrative. If I was going to expose him, it had to be clean, undeniable, and public enough that he couldn't gaslight his way out of it. Step 1 was proof. The next morning, while Derek was in the shower, I quietly unlocked his tablet, something I'd never felt the need to do before. The messages were still there. Long threads with Samantha. Holiday plans. Inside jokes. Private frustrations about me disguised as concerns. I took screenshots of everything and backed them up to a cloud account he didn't know existed. Then came the money trail. I checked our joint account and found charges I hadn't approved, gifts, reservations, and decor purchases I'd never seen. All for Christmas. All coordinated with Samantha. I exported the statements and highlighted the dates. This wasn't just emotional betrayal, it was financial disrespect wrapped in holiday cheer. Step 3 was the trap. I played my role perfectly. I smiled. I thanked Derek for handling things. I even asked his opinion on the table arrangement, pretending not to notice how closely it matched Samantha's suggestions from the messages. His confidence grew. He thought he was winning. That arrogance made everything easier. I casually suggested inviting a few close friends and family members to Christmas dinner, people Derek admired, people whose opinions mattered to him. He agreed immediately, thrilled at the chance to show off his mature, modern situation. "See," he said smugly. "You're being so cool about this." I smiled back. "You wanted maturity. I'm delivering." What he didn't know was that I had already spoken privately to my sister and my best friend, sharing just enough to prepare them. They didn't question me. They trusted me. And they agreed to be there, front row, for whatever was coming. Finally, I prepared the moment. I created a private folder on my phone labeled recipes, hiding the screenshots and financial records inside. I rehearsed what I would say, not with rage, but with clarity. The truth didn't need theatrics. It only needed light. Meanwhile, Derek strutted around the house like a man in complete control. He joked. He teased. He even reminded me, once again, to be mature around Samantha. Each time he said it, my resolve hardened. Christmas was 3 days away. He thought he was orchestrating a reunion. He thought I was the quiet wife playing along. What he didn't realize was this: I wasn't planning a scene. I was planning a revelation. And very soon, the man who brought his ex to my table would finally understand what maturity really looks like, when the truth is served hot, in front of everyone. I didn't sleep much that night. While Derek snored peacefully beside me, completely unaware that his secret was no longer safe, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, turning pain into precision. Crying wouldn't save me. Confrontation would only give him time to rewrite the narrative. If I was going to expose him, it had to be clean, undeniable, and public enough that he couldn't gaslight his way out of it. Step 1 was proof. The next morning, while Derek was in the shower, I quietly unlocked his tablet, something I'd never felt the need to do before. The messages were still there. Long threads with Samantha. Holiday plans. Inside jokes. Private frustrations about me disguised as concerns. I took screenshots of everything and backed them up to a cloud account he didn't know existed. Then came the money trail. I checked our joint account and found charges I hadn't approved, gifts, reservations, and decor purchases I'd never seen. All for Christmas. All coordinated with Samantha. I exported the statements and highlighted the dates. This wasn't just emotional betrayal, it was financial disrespect wrapped in holiday cheer. Step 3 was the trap. I played my role perfectly. I smiled. I thanked Derek for handling things. I even asked his opinion on the table arrangement, pretending not to notice how closely it matched Samantha's suggestions from the messages. His confidence grew. He thought he was winning. That arrogance made everything easier. I casually suggested inviting a few close friends and family members to Christmas dinner, people Derek admired, people whose opinions mattered to him. He agreed immediately, thrilled at the chance to show off his mature, modern situation. "See," he said smugly. "You're being so cool about this." I smiled back. "You wanted maturity. I'm delivering." What he didn't know was that I had already spoken privately to my sister and my best friend, sharing just enough to prepare them. They didn't question me. They trusted me. And they agreed to be there, front row, for whatever was coming. Finally, I prepared the moment. I created a private folder on my phone labeled recipes, hiding the screenshots and financial records inside. I rehearsed what I would say, not with rage, but with clarity. The truth didn't need theatrics. It only needed light. Meanwhile, Derek strutted around the house like a man in complete control. He joked. He teased. He even reminded me, once again, to be mature around Samantha. Each time he said it, my resolve hardened. Christmas was 3 days away. He thought he was orchestrating a reunion. He thought I was the quiet wife playing along. What he didn't realize was this: I wasn't planning a scene. I was planning a revelation. And very soon, the man who brought his ex to my table would finally understand what maturity really looks like, when the truth is served hot, in front of everyone. Prompt 6: Revenge Execution, Climax. Continue the story from Part 5. Write Part 6 of 7, 400 to 500 words. Deliver the climactic revenge, courtroom twist, family humiliation, financial collapse, public exposure. Make it dramatic, cinematic, and satisfying. Revenge must directly reflect the betrayal in the title. High voltage, this should feel like a movie climax. Part 6 of 7, Revenge Execution, Climax. The night had arrived. Christmas lights twinkled warmly, candles flickered across the table, and Derek stood in the center of it all, exuding confidence. Samantha sat across from me, her smile smug, as if she had already claimed victory. I kept my composure, sipping my wine, waiting. Every detail had been orchestrated for maximum impact. The guests Derek admired most, family, close friends, even colleagues, were seated strategically, just where I had asked them. As he raised his glass to toast, I subtly pressed a button on my phone. Instantly, the large smart screen in the living room flickered to life. What appeared wasn't festive scenery, it was Derek's secret life laid bare. Screenshots of private messages. Texts with Samantha planning the evening in secret. Financial records of gifts, reservations, and decor he had purchased without my knowledge. And the most damning of all, messages where he called me overly dramatic and boasted about how I wouldn't notice the ex's influence. The room fell silent. Derek froze mid-toast, his glass shaking in his hand. His carefully maintained charm crumbled as eyes shifted toward the screen, absorbing every detail. I think it's time everyone understands how Derek Lawson truly operates, I said, stepping forward, my voice calm but firm. He asked me to be mature tonight while secretly orchestrating an evening that erased me from my own home. Gasps filled the room. Samantha's smile faltered. Derek opened his mouth, but words failed him. I continued, letting the evidence speak for itself. I detailed the financial manipulation, the secret planning, and the subtle ways he had undermined me for months. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. I simply presented the truth. By the end of the evening, Derek's reputation was shattered. Colleagues exchanged awkward glances, family members whispered in disbelief, and Samantha could only shrink in her seat, realizing her complicity in his deception had backfired. Outside, social media was already lighting up. Guests had discreetly snapped photos and shared clips of the reveal. Within hours, Derek's carefully curated image was dismantled. Sponsors, friends, and acquaintances who had admired him turned skeptical. The man who had believed he could manipulate the night, manipulate me, and control perception had lost everything in a single, silent strike. I looked around the room, finally breathing freely. The man who had asked me to be mature had been exposed publicly, his arrogance laid bare. And in that moment, I felt a profound sense of liberation. This was not just victory over betrayal, but reclamation of my life, my dignity, and my power. Derek had tried to rewrite my story, but the truth, sharp, undeniable, and unyielding, had written his downfall instead. Tonight, I wasn't just the wronged wife. I was the force no one saw coming. And the storm I had quietly prepared had just arrived. The morning after Christmas, the house was quiet to peaceful, in a way I hadn't felt in months. Derek didn't speak. Samantha didn't linger. Their carefully constructed facade of charm and control had collapsed overnight. Social media was buzzing. Videos of the reveal had gone viral. Comments poured in near shock, support, outrage. People who had admired Derek for his charisma and maturity were now seeing the truth. Manipulation, deceit, and betrayal had been masked behind a perfect smile. His image, once untouchable, was crumbling. I walked through the living room, untouched gifts and decorations around me, feeling a freedom I hadn't known I deserved. The fear, anxiety, and heartbreak that had followed me for weeks had transformed into something stronger: clarity, empowerment, and control over my own life. Family and friends who had sensed something off finally approached me, offering apologies for not noticing sooner. But there was no bitterness in my response, only quiet confidence. I had taken my pain, sharpened it into strategy, and emerged victorious. I updated my social media, not to boast, but to reclaim my story. Every photo, every post, every memory belonged to me. My life wasn't curated by someone else's ego. I was no longer the background character in a narrative I didn't write. And the best part? Derek had thought he was teaching me to be mature, to accept the situation without resistance. In his arrogance, he had underestimated me. The very lesson he tried to impose backfired. He had invited betrayal into my home, and it was he who ended up exposed. I sipped my coffee by the window, sunlight spilling across the room, thinking about the year ahead. I didn't need revenge anymore, it had been served hot, public, and undeniable. What remained was life lived on my own terms, with no shadows of deceit lingering. And here's the truth I want to share with you, the viewers watching this story unfold. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to realize they were manipulating your life behind your back? Have you ever been silenced, dismissed, or erased by someone you loved? Share your experiences in the comments, your story matters. And if you want more tales of empowerment, justice, and reclaiming your voice, hit subscribe and join a community where the truth always prevails. Because sometimes, the most poetic justice isn't revenge shouted from the rooftops, it's the quiet strength of rising above the person who tried to erase you. He tried to sit at my table and make me invisible. Tonight, I dined in triumph, and he was the one left standing outside the story he tried to control. And that, viewers, is a Christmas he, and no one else, will ever forget.